Howdy folks, this is Justro at Metcalf Mills bringing you Storytime Tuesday. I got a good one for you today. It's, I guess you could call it haint tales or ghost stories, but as far as I know, the most of it's true. I hope you enjoy it. Folks, today I'm going to tell you some old ghost stories. Now, these are, I can tell you from personal experience one or two, but the rest of them has come directly from the people to me that seen it. So, you can take it for what you will, but as far as I know, this is all true. The way it happened, I don't know how it could be explained, but as far as I know, it's all true, and it ain't a tale. It ain't a tale. It's not made up. It's truth. And I guess I'll start out telling you about the ones I've been told. Well, it may be one that my dad told me from somebody else that told him, but some of our family was going down Paint Fork early one morning before dark, and they was going to work. Him and his daddy, Ralph and his daddy, and the story Daddy told me was I come down through there and there's a curve kind of to the left there, and kind of the woods is up on the bank there, and so it's coming down, their headlights shined up there, and there's something up there that looked kind of like a man, but it looked kind of hairy looking, and it just kind of hunched down when the light shined on it. It just kind of squatted down. That's what I was told now. And that ain't really a ghost story. It's just an experienced story here in the mountains. But there's a couple of things. Another thing, down on Paint Fork where Mama and Papa lived, and that old house over there, it's gone now, but it's a big old house, kind of fashioned like a lot of these old houses around here, built around 1900. Had a big front and a big old kitchen on the back. And Mama said one day she was in there in the kitchen doing something, working, and music started playing, like it's playing up in the attic part of the house. And she went all through the house looking for a radio. Somebody had a radio on or something, but it wasn't there. And she never did figure out the source of where that music was coming from. And I don't reckon nobody knows to this day. It seems like there's somebody else heard it too, not just her, but somebody else. But Mother and Daddy's told me one or two. Down at the old house where I was raised, Mother said one night she was in there, and now this house was built by my parents, so it wasn't no old house that had been there. This was a house built by my parents, the first old house they ever had. And Mother said she looked on the kitchen porch there, and then you come into the kitchen, and then there's on the other side there's a door went into the bedroom there. And she said she looked through there one time, and that was like she described like just a form of a man standing in the doorway of the house there. And no details or nothing. She could just see kind of the form standing in the doorway there. And she never could explain or come up with no reason why that happened. But another thing that happened, Mother and Daddy said, after they got married, they lived around a few different places, but I guess the first place they lived on their own was an old house up in the holler up above us here. Back up in the holler there, kind of across from the old Wiley barn that I showed you in that a while back on the barn video there. Across on the other side of the road there up in the holler, there's an old house, and Mother and Daddy she said they was getting ready to go to bed, and there was a back room on that old house there, just a back room, I guess like a storage room or something like that there, and it had a door, and there's a nail in the wall, and there's a little string there on that door that you'd wrap around that nail to keep that door closed. Like of the winter time when it was cold, or just whenever you wanted to keep it closed, but they'd always close that door of a night. And, you know, where they was sleeping to keep any cold or anything coming in there. And Mother said she'd done gotten to bed, and Daddy was doing his night things before he went to bed, and he went over to that door and closed it and wrapped that string around that nail and turned around and walked off, and Mother was just sitting there looking, and she said there was a hand come through the door and got a hold of that string and unwrapped it from around that nail, and that door flew open. And it really scared her, because she seen this with her own eyes. I mean, she seen it, and it really scared her, and they moved out of there after that. She wouldn't stay there no more. But another thing that I can tell you from some friends that we went to church with all my life, they, over there in the holler where they live, old man Bill, he said that they was two little young'uns that they would see over there sometimes, and he was out working doing something outside one day, and he heard something, you know, a little noise like somebody talking. He turned around and looked, and there's two young'uns, a little boy and a little girl, coming up the road there, down below him down there, you know, he could see him down there, but it was a little ways off from him, and he just turned around and kept working, and the minute he turned back around and looked, and it was gone. Just gone. And they wouldn't know where they could have went to get out of his sight that fast, you know. Well, it happened again. Another time it happened, and they come walking up the same road, if I remember right. Now this is how it went. They was walking up through there, and he seen them again, and he said, all right, I ain't taking my eyes off of you this time. I'm going to watch. They was walking up through there, and he said all of a sudden there's a rifle fired over on the other side of the holler somewhere, and he turned just a minute to, you know, when that gun fired, he turned to look and turned back, and they was gone. And he never did have no explanation about that, who they was, where they come from, you know, if they'd ever been any young'uns up in that holler, you know, died or anything like that. They never was no explanation found as far as I know. And there's another story over on the head of Crooked Creek where my grandma's mom and daddy lived. Had to have been grandpa. There's an old house up there at the head of that holler, and Daddy said one day they was sitting on the porch. I don't know if Daddy was there or they told him, but they was sitting there on the porch, and they looked down in the yard. The the house set up on the kind of on the bank there, and the road was down below it here. And they was sitting on the porch right there, and they looked down in the yard, and there's a little baby crawling up through the yard there. Well, it was crawling pretty fast and got pretty close to the porch when the time they seen it. And they got up and walked down off of the porch and around in the yard. And they said when they was getting up, that baby just kept crawling, and it crawled up under the porch, up under the house. And they run around down there and got, up under the house, gonna get it out. And they never did find no baby at all, nowhere. And they never was no explanation as to why that happened, where it come from. Nothing. No explanation at all. And I can tell you, this one was told to me about the grandma house up the head of the holler. I done some video, Pap, Joe Hardy, and Grandma up there, that old log house they had. One of my cousins told me one day that they used to go up there and stay all night in that old log house sometimes, and they was in there one night, and Pap, he wore heel irons on his boots. He'd put his boots on an iron last, and he, in his blacksmith shop there, he'd make little heel irons and put on his boots so they'd wear longer, it'd last a lot longer. And while you could hear them things, you could hear him walking with them heel irons on. They made a distinct noise when you was walking. Well, they was in the house, and it was either upstairs or downstairs. They heard, seemed like they was, let's see, I think they was sleeping upstairs, if I remember right now. And it was quiet, of a night, and they heard something downstairs, and then they heard them footsteps walking through the old house. It sounded like, Pap's boots would have with them heel irons walking through there, and they swore that's, it was Pap walking through there. But this was years way after he had died, and I don't reckon they ever had no explanation of that unless somebody's playing a trick on them. I don't know about that, but now the next thing or two I can tell you is from my own experience. This happened to me. I seen it with my own eyes. And one night I was working down at the shop late, and I didn't have no light or nothing. I'd been down there working all evening. It got dark on me, and I come out, and locked everything up for the day, and was walking up a hill, up the driveway after dark, and I couldn't see. It's a real dark night. I couldn't see nothing much. I could just barely tell, where I was going. And I didn't care about that, because I've been out walking around in the dark my whole life. I've been up in the mountains in the dark. It don't bother me a bit, so I didn't care. And I was walking up a driveway, and I got up on the hill there, and I heard something start growling, and it wasn't like a dog growling or something. I thought it was one of my dogs when I first heard it, and I hollered at him. I said, what are you doing, or something like that, so in case they didn't recognize me. And I just kept walking. I didn't slow down. And I got a little higher up there, and I growled again, like a, kind of make you think of a cat, but not hardly. It was kind of a, real deep growl, ugly growl. And it could have been, it could have been an animal that was maybe going mad, had rabies, I don't know, something. But that time it got my attention, and I kind of slowed down and started listening. And I looked up the driveway and I seen something. It's kind of a black figure, kind of like the one I seen up the road that day, and it kind of went off around down the hill towards the barn, down the bottom of the barn down there. I don't know what it was, but it had an awful growl to it, and I eased on up through there and went on by and went on to the house, you know, watching around me pretty good, but I don't know what that was. No explanation for it. There was another time out here. This ain't been long ago, maybe last year or something. I was come out on the porch. It was after night, and there was a light down the holler down there, and it was a light just kind of floating around up above. I guess between here and Billy's, just up in the, you know, up in the elements there, just floating around, just kind of moving a little bit. And I watched it, and it was just gone. I don't know what that was. I ain't never got no explanation of that, what it was or nothing, but it was something, because I seen it with my own eyes. And another thing, and this is something that's probably the most real thing that's ever happened to me, or if you say, well, you don't believe that, this would be probably the thing to me that I most believe in my life, because I know it happened. I seen it with my own eyes. And I ain't never took no drugs. I ain't never drunk and, you know, got drunk or nothing like that. Nothing like that. And I seen this with my own eyes. It was a little while after I got married. This would have been in the early 2000s, about 3 or 4. And I lived in the old house where I was raised. My sister lived there for years and years, and she moved out, and I moved in there after I got married. And the way it was, my sister was married, and they remodeled some of the house, and it was different than it was when we growed up there. And they had a back hallway. You come out of the living room and come down the hallway, and there's a couple bedrooms, and then you come into the main bedroom there. Well, me and my wife had just went to bed, and we was laying there, and, you know, it was quiet, and there wasn't no sound, no nothing, just dead quiet. And all of a sudden, like, the bed was here, and the door was over here, and the hallway went down that way. And I was laying there, you know, just laying there with my eyes open, and here come this light. And the best way I know to describe it, if you take a flashlight, like one of them old flashlights, and you stick it up against a wall somewhere, you get a little ball of light on the wall right where that main beam of that flashlight's going. That's kind of what it looked like. But it was up near the top of the door there. And I was laying there looking, the door was right there, and that light just kind of floated by the top of the doorway there. Not right in the top, but up towards the top of the doorway on that wall. It just kind of went by just like that. And I said, "Did you see that?" And she said, "What?" And I said, "That light in the hallway." And I'll be doggone. I mean, I could doubt it. You know, I could have said my eyes may be playing tricks on me or something like that. But I had no more than said that, and here that thing went again, that light, right across the top of the door, just floating right by. And when it went by, she started crying. I mean, it tore her up. It really scared her. And what I thought it was, because on this hallway, there weren't no windows of no kind. No light could come in from outside, and it wasn't that kind of a light anyway. It was a concentrated little ball of light that just went right by there. And what I really thought it was somebody in the house, and they was coming down the hallway with a flashlight. That's the most realist explanation I could come up with in my head right then. So I reached and got my gun and got up and you know, checked all through the house, and nothing. Couldn't find nothing. And it was so real. I mean, and you could say, well, that's just my eyes playing tricks on me, but she seen it too. So there ain't no way that can be explained. I mean, it happened sure enough. Well, over the years, I've thought about that a whole lot. And I don't know how to explain. I don't need to explain it. I don't want to explain it. I'm just going to say I don't know how. When a person is conceived, I don't know how that life gets there. I mean, I know it's God's design, and He gives that life, but I don't know. And I've thought before, years later, I was talking to somebody about this, and the thought come to me, this was before we ever had Virginia, my oldest girl, and I was thinking, you know, was this a sign or something that, you know, we was going to have a child, a baby? I don't know, you know, I don't know. I'm just, you know how you are trying to figure things out, but I don't know if maybe, because this was a little while before Virginia come along, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know how it works. I don't know what God's plans and workings is about bringing life, but I've thought about that a lot, you know. Could that have been the life, or I may be getting too far out there for you. I don't know. I've just thought, I seen this with my own eyes, and I don't have no explanations for it. It just went floating right across the top of the door. I seen it with these eyes right here, and I know it was real because I wasn't the only one that seen it. So I got no explanation for that, but it did happen. And I'll tell you one more that happened to us as a family, and this is something that's it's really something that involved all of us, kinda, and it was a very strange thing. But one time, I guess it's been about probably 5 years ago, and Mother was in the hospital. She was in the hospital, if I remember right, for a week at time. And I stayed with her up there in the hospital every night and most every day. And Virginia stayed here with Daddy, you know, to kind of help him and get what he needed and watch after him in case something happened. And she was a pretty big girl at that time, big enough to be responsible and, you know what to do and everything. And one night late, Daddy had went to bed and Virginia had went to bed, and all of a sudden they heard something in the kitchen. They heard the cabinet doors opening and closing. I don't know how many times. Virginia could tell you better than I could, but they heard the cabinet doors open and close in the kitchen. And Daddy, he couldn't get around good at all, and he hollered at Virginia, and she heard it too, and Daddy said, well, turn the light on, Virginia, and see what it is. And she was pretty scared, you know. She thought somebody was in the kitchen, but if it had been somebody in there, they wouldn't have been getting in the kitchen cabinets. But I reckon she finally got up a nerve and turned the hall light on and kind of peeked around and seen there wasn't nobody in the house, nobody but them. And next day, I guess it was the next day, Mother had told me that morning that she had a dream that she was at the house in the kitchen working. And I didn't, when she told me about that dream, I didn't know what had happened to them. But I can't remember exactly how it went. They called or they come up to the hospital that day. And we figured this out, that this happened, you know. They heard somebody in the kitchen opening the cabinet doors and close them, and Mother had a dream that night when she was laying in a hospital bed in the hospital that she was in her kitchen doing something. And that was a strange thing, you know, but that involved different people, and it happened, and it's, you know, it was all the truth, all legitimate, and that was a strange thing, now I'm telling you, but I don't know how things work and how things happen. I ain't never just believed in ghost stories to say, but them things did happen to me or somebody that I know and trust to tell me the truth. There may be one or two of them that, you know, could be not right from the horse's mouth, as you say, but, you know, Daddy believed who told him two or three little things, and I believed, you know, what Daddy told me, and I believe what him and Mother told me. I know they was telling me the truth, and they didn't do no kind of drugs or getting drunk or nothing like that. Mother, and them things happened, and there ain't no explanation for none of them really, and that's about all I've got as far as real, true ghost stories. And I might be able to tell you some ghost stories that may be just tales, you know. I can't verify them or validate them, but that's about all I can tell you from my experience and what I've been told from other people that I, you know, believe and trust what they say. But these strange things happens, and I know probably all yuns watching this video are going to have some tales and stories yourself, and if you don't care to write them out there, I'd love to read them in the comments, and I know everybody else would too, but just strange things that's happened to you, or strange things that you've seen in your life, or, you know, things like that. If you share them with us, well, we'd appreciate it and enjoy reading them, I'm sure. But I hope everybody's having a good Tuesday today. Hope you enjoy this Story Time Tuesday, and hope everybody had a good weekend there. And I wanted to give a big holler out to all of you, and I want to say thank you. My channel this weekend passed 1 million views, and we is so excited about that. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of yous. I love each and every one of yous, and appreciate yous for watching our channel. And I appreciate you sharing in the comments. I do my best to try to keep up with them. Don't hold back. It don't matter if I can keep up or not. Share. If you got something to say, I want you to comment. And that helps too. And hit that like button. And we'll keep it going and sharing the good things we got and trying to help other people. And I hope it's a help and a blessing to you. I get a lot of people saying that it is, and that makes me feel good all over. So we'll keep it going. And past 1 million views, we'll try for 2 million, and we'll try to keep putting out good stuff and helpful and enjoyable, and like I say, we'll talk good to you if nothing else. So hit that like button if you will. Subscribe if you ain't already. Tell your friends about me. Think about them old-timey stories from your family and tales, and if you got something to share in the comments, we'd enjoy hearing it. This is Justro at Metcalf Mills. I look forward to seeing you next time.